I've got more than 1 million followers across social channels that run meta ads, and a ton of them want to expand into the other Goliath of the online advertising world, and that's Google Ads. That's actually one of the reasons why I created this Google Ads channel. And in this video, I'm going to show you the right way to get started with Google Ads if you've previously run ads on Meta or another platform. So let's start by talking about why you might want to do this. Why diversify ad platforms in the first place, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'm going to quickly explain why before I get into how you actually do this. You've got ads that are running in Meta or another platform. Why bother with Google? Okay. Well, firstly, you reach people more often. So one of the core metrics, one of the metrics that's now thought of as being really important in terms of getting people to become a lead or purchase is impression frequency over a relatively short time period. So a lot of ad platforms are trying to work out, can we put an ad in front of someone, let's say 3 times within a 24-hour period? Because once spaced out over time is just not enough. It's too easy to ignore. You're not building that impression frequency to get someone to take action. Well, if you're running ads on Meta, let's say, you have a much greater chance of condensing that impression frequency, getting more ads in front of people in a shorter time period if you're also running ads on Google. Because remember, Google Ads is not just search. You've got YouTube, you've got display, which is banner ads across lots of websites and apps. You've got Gmail, loads of potential places to reach people. So it really helps with the impression frequency, which helps with conversions. You also get to reach people that you're not currently reaching. Not everyone uses Facebook. Not everyone uses Instagram. Of the people that do use both of those platforms, some people use them infrequently. They might be more of a YouTube user than an Instagram user, for example. So having ads on Google being displayed on YouTube as well means you might reach people that you're not otherwise reaching. Same applies to the other elements of Google Ads. Now, obviously, that goes both ways. If you're a Google advertiser thinking to expand into Meta ads, that would apply as well. But potentially reach people that are great potential prospects for your products and services, but they're just not on the platforms you're currently advertising on. Expanding platforms help you reach those people. One of the advantages that Google has over, say, Meta ads or a lot of other advertising platforms is that you have the potential to also reach people in a different mindset. So because you can advertise on Google search when someone is looking and they have intent, they're actively looking for a product or service, same could be applied to Google Shopping as well. You can reach them when they're already at the bottom of the funnel and it's a relatively easy conversion. Now, you often pay more in terms of cost per click than you would for more top of funnel awareness or interruption style advertising, but that is an option. For some businesses, that is really, really important. And then the other thing is, it always makes me a little bit nervous if an entire business is based on the customers acquired through one ad platform. I think when you're first getting started, that's absolutely fine. But once you've reached any level of size, you've got staff, there's expenses, what happens if your ad account gets disabled? Well, if you're reliant on one ad platform, that could be a business killer. If you've got multiple ad platforms going, you are far more insulated and less likely to run into to significant issues. Okay, so that's the why. Let's talk about when. When do you take this step? Let's say you've got Meta ads that are running or another form of advertising. When do you go, okay, now it's time to add Google Ads in? I think it's important to succeed on the platform you've already got ads running on first. So let's say you're running Meta ads, make sure that they are profitable before you start adding in other ad platforms like Google Ads. If you do it before then, you're likely to spread yourself too thin. And particularly when you haven't got something to work yet, often what's required is a lot of testing, experimentation, a lot of thought process, extra budget, all these sorts of things. So for most businesses, get it to work really well in one scenario, in one place, and then move on, in this case, Meta ads, and then move over to Google Ads. Also, if you do it that way round and your Meta ads are nicely profitable, that will give you the funds to then invest into Google Ads, because just like you may have gone through with Meta ads when you first start advertising on Google, it might not work really well. It might not be really profitable from day one. Therefore, having some budget to work with and be able to experiment is going to be useful. And just as a little guideline here, just to help emphasize this point, Google recommends that you start Google Ads with a daily budget that's at least 10 times your average cost per conversion. So let's say it costs you $20 to get a purchase for a product. You'd be looking at a starting daily budget of $200 per day, $6,000 per month. Now, don't worry, that's Google's recommendation. You absolutely can get started with smaller budgets than that with those numbers, but just something to be aware of. Okay, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to do it with a tiny budget where I'm only going to get 1 or 2 clicks a day. It's going to be really difficult for Google to optimize. It's going to be really difficult for you as an advertiser to optimize. You want to be in a position where you're like, no, Meta ads is doing really nicely. We're getting profit from that. Right, let's reinvest that into Google Ads. If we go through a period of working out, that's absolutely fine. We're prepared for that. We know this can work for us over the long run and can be a really significant part of our marketing mix. You can also, if you want to, just start with a really simple remarketing campaign. Particularly if you're running meta ads, you're sending traffic to a website, you can, if nothing else, put ads in front of those people, again, not just on Meta with retargeting campaigns, but also with Google Ads, with remarketing campaigns, with the display network, with lots of various elements of Google advertising, YouTube, Gmail, Discover. You can put ads in front of people again and again, often really low-hanging fruit. We've had this happen so many times where we've had a Meta ads client and we've said to them, look, let's just take 10%, 15% of this budget, put it in on Google Ads, and we think that we're going to hoover up a load of low-hanging fruit here, people who are interacting with you that we can remarket, loads of cheap sales leads, which is what every business wants, right? So that's one of the things. If you're thinking, should I, shouldn't I, meta ads are working, do I want to spend the time and effort? You can get set up really quickly and easily, and I'll show you how you do that from a technical standpoint in a second. Other recommendations around getting started with Google Ads, right, is to not start from scratch. So there are differences between platforms. So there are differences between meta ads and Google Ads, and the more you advertise on both for a set of products or a single business, the more you will realize that you need to differ what you have on each and make some adjustments. But absolutely, you want to start with what's worked elsewhere. So take what's worked for you on Meta in your Facebook ads, your Instagram ads, your creative assets, your images, your videos, your headline options. You might have to rewrite them to fit with character limits and things like that. But bring those over to Google Ads and absolutely get started with that. Like I said before, everyone thinks of Google Ads, they think of search. Google Ads is so much more than search, right? And it's actually better to start with another campaign type if you're coming from Meta, and that's demand gen. Demand gen as a campaign type was literally designed for people coming from other advertising places, like Meta ads being the most obvious example. With demand gen, you put ads on YouTube, Discover, which is like if you go on your phone and you go open a Google Chrome browser and you go to search, you'll see like a feed of stuff underneath, news articles, sports related stuff, things like that. That's your Discover feed. And Gmail in both image and video formats. So you can literally just grab your meta asset, create a quick and easy demand gen campaign, just bring everything across, and it's going to most likely work pretty well. That's what that campaign type was set up for. Now, I will recommend in a second that you expand once you've gotten used to the platform a bit and gotten up and running, but that is the quickest and easiest way to get started. And also, what's worked elsewhere is likely to be the best place to start from what will work on Google Ads too, because you're advertising most likely to the same, if not similar people. What they react to in one place, they're highly likely to react to elsewhere. Like I said, there are nuances and differences, but as a starting point, you can definitely do a lot worse than that. So like I said, I'm going to talk about what you move on to in a second. Before I do, just want to quickly let you know about our done for you Google Ad services. So my company can create, manage, and optimize your Google Ad campaigns for you. We can take that workload off your hands, whether you're a meta advertiser or otherwise. We do this all the time. We spent tens of millions on the platform. We can almost certainly get you significantly better results. If you're working with an agency and you're not happy with them, we've worked with so many businesses in that scenario and been able to improve their results the vast majority of the time. So if that sounds interesting, there is a link in the video description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website, book in a free, no obligation call with one of my team members. Yeah, if that sounds interesting, go ahead and do that, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. So once you've got up and running with demand gen, you've been running ads for a few weeks, you feel like you've got to know the platform a little bit more, you know how to check the data and all that sort of stuff. I think it'd be a good idea to move on to Performance Max as a campaign type. Performance Max has more functionality than demand gen. That does make it a little bit more complicated for you as an advertiser because you do need to learn the platform a little bit more, and it's often why complete beginners, I don't recommend using Performance Max. If you're brand new to Google Ads, haven't done any other advertising, I normally recommend starting with search. If you've run ads on something like Meta, best to start with demand gen, and then once you've got some conversions and you've learnt the platform a little bit, then you can go into Performance Max, which is over the long run my favorite campaign type when it comes to Google Ads. Just to quickly explain what Performance Max is. So Performance Max includes all the other Google Ads campaign types. So just like demand gen we talked about already being on YouTube, Discover, Gmail, Performance Max has got those. It's also got display, banner ads across website and apps. You see those ads all the time, we all do. Google Shopping, Google Search, so it really incorporates the lot. A couple of things you can do as part of Performance Max, which are really appealing, particularly if you've come from Meta ads. So you can use product catalog assets. That might be what's working for you really well in Meta ads. If you're running catalog ads and those are performing, well, great with the Performance Max campaign, you can look to replicate that within the Google Ads world. And you can bring over the assets that you've used from Meta in that too. So don't start from scratch. Start with things that have worked really well, bring them over. So going from a demand gen to a Performance Max campaign, you've still got that core base of stuff that you can use, and you're just adding to it with a few bits. Yes, you're going to have to add in stuff for search. Yes, you're going to have to add in stuff for shopping. I have videos on both of those and all sorts on my channel. So make sure you subscribe and go ahead and check out those videos, and you'll be able to find out more. Okay, how do I do the search part of Performance Max campaign? That sort of thing. You can find that sort of stuff if you want to go through it. So the way to think about Performance Max, if you're a Meta advertiser already thinking about moving into Google Ads, is Performance Max is similar to Meta's Advantage Plus campaigns. In fact, Advantage Plus campaigns were sort of modeled really on Google's Performance Max. So for targeting, like working out who you're going to advertise to, you can provide audience signals. So this is where you tell Google, my audience, the people I want to reach are interested in this, they meet these criteria. Here, let me give you some direction, Google, but at the end of the day, you have the flexibility to ignore these targeting options and go beyond that and try and find people that are likely to buy, likely to become a lead, likely to become a customer of mine, and basically taking advantage of Google's AI and their algorithm to work out how to get you the best results possible, just in the same way that Advantage Plus campaigns do with Meta. So when you're setting up your targeting suggestions, don't overthink it when you're getting started. Go with the options that make sense. You can always adjust those later. If not, Google's going to work out a lot of that for you, just like with a lot of the Advantage Plus setup within Meta ad campaigns, if that's what you're more familiar with. So I've talked about using what you've got in Meta ads and bringing that over to Google Ads quite a bit. But you do need to remember there are differences, right? So start with what has worked best, but then be responsive to the data. So you might see, let's say you've got 4 different image ads that work really well on Meta. One of them is the best performer. You bring those 4 over to Google Ads. A different one is the best one. Okay, that's fine. That's data. That's feedback. We can go with that. Right. For Google Ads, can we create more like the best performer to test? For Meta ads, can we create more like the best performer to test? And that's where the platforms will start to diverge, because you see the data and you respond to it, and then you go from there. So don't be lazy with it once you're up and running and you feel like this can be a viable customer acquisition channel for you, that you can't just replicate everything over. Sometimes you can, by the way. Sometimes that does work, but often there's going to be differences, and a lot of the benefit with digital advertising, just like with anything in business, is in the nuance, it's in the detail, it's in the competitive advantage that you can get by really looking at this stuff and going, okay, we can do a little bit better here, we can do a little bit better here, and that compounds over time. Then when you start a new platform, if you've come from another platform and made your ads work there, like let's say you've made ads work in Meta, you're coming over to Google Ads, people are typically better at this, but it still needs to be said, give it time. You need to learn the new platform, just like you probably do with Meta ads. It's easy to forget. You think, oh, I know how to run ads now, jump onto a new platform, and you create some campaigns. They don't perform really well, really disheartened. No, it's fine. I had to go through this with Meta ads. It might take me less time to work it out because of my previous experience, but there's still going to be a learning curve. And it's also worth bearing in mind that Performance Max and Demand Gen, just like with Meta ad campaigns, whether Advantage Plus or otherwise, the more conversions you have, the better they will perform. Because the more data Google has to know, okay, we need to advertise to this type of person. Actually, 43-year-olds do convert better than 47-year-olds. So let's put more ads in front of 43-year-olds. They need to know what time of day to put ads in front of people. What impression frequency do they need over a short period of time? They can work out where people need to be, what they need to be interested in. Just like with campaigns through Meta, the more data, the more conversions, the more sales, the more leads that you generate, the more Google, just like with Meta, is able to optimize and get you better results. So expect your results to improve over time, both because you learn as the advertiser and make adjustments, and the platform, your ad account, learns and is able to make adjustments too. And if you want more tips on how to get the best possible results with Google Ads as a beginner, check out this video. In it, I share the most important things that you need to do and the most important things that you need to avoid if you want your results to be as good as possible. If you're a Google Ads beginner, this is a must watch.